Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into some really practical ancient wisdom. We're looking at the Bible, specifically 2 Chronicles 19.
Right, and it focuses on King Jehoshaphat. It's this pivotal moment for him.
Yeah, so the scene is set. Jehoshaphat's just come back to Jerusalem. He's returned safe from a pretty dangerous battle. Chapter 18 gives us all that lead up.
You'd think it'd be a celebration, right? He
He
survived.
would, but, well, that's not quite what happens first. He gets an immediate rebuke.
From the prophet Jehu, yeah. And it's pretty direct.
It really is. Jehu basically asks him, "Shouldest thou help the ungodly and love them that hate the Lord?" Wow. Talk about a challenging welcome home.
A very pointed question about his recent alliances. It forces you to think, doesn't it? About
Oh,
who you align with.
absolutely. But then right after that sharp critique, there's a bit of a balance.
Exactly. The prophet doesn't just condemn. He also says, there's good found in Jehoshaphat.
Right, like removing the idols, seeking God with his whole heart, things like that.
So it paints this more nuanced picture. A leader who maybe made a bad call, alliance-wise, but whose fundamental orientation was towards God.
And that complex picture is kind of our starting point for this deep dive. We want to pull out some principles from this old story.
Yeah, principles that aren't just historical facts, but things that you, listening now, can actually use. Things to, well, encourage obedience and maybe strengthen your own faith.
Okay, so let's start with that rebuke.
Right.
Principle number 1, maybe, the gift of correction.
I like that framing, because Jehoshaphat's reaction is pretty remarkable. He's the king. He could have dismissed Jehu easily.
Totally. But he doesn't. He seems to, well, receive it, humbly even.
And that response, not just hearing it, but actually leading to repentance and real reform, that says a lot about his character. It's a sign of wisdom, of growth.
It really makes you think about feedback in our own lives, doesn't it? How do we react when someone points something out, even if it stings a bit?
Seeing it as a chance to grow rather than just getting defensive, that's a big takeaway right there. It reveals character.
So he takes the correction. What happens next? Does he just sort of reflect on it?
No, he acts. The text says he then went out, traveled through Judah, purposefully,
Doing what?
bringing the people back to God. And he also sets up a whole system of judges in every fortified city.
Ah, okay. So practical steps, and not just any judges, right? He gave them specific instructions.
Very specific. He told them, look, you're not judging for humans here. You're judging for the Lord.
That's a high standard.
Immense.
Yeah.
He tells them to act with the fear of the Lord, no partiality, no taking bribes. And that phrase, take heed what you do. It's serious.
Yeah, that leads into another principle, maybe. Righteous leadership and accountability.
Definitely. It's about integrity and positions of influence. And that's not just kings or judges. It applies to, well, anywhere we have influence.
Yeah.
Family, work, community.
Right. It's about letting your faith actually shape how you treat people, how you make decisions, fairness, integrity.
And Jehoshaphat even set up a kind of higher court in Jerusalem. Levites, priests, family heads.
For the really tough cases, matters of the Lord, controversies.
Exactly. And their job included warning people against sinning to avoid God's wrath. So there's a preventative aspect too.
So it wasn't just punishing wrongdoing, but actively promoting righteousness.
Yes. Which connects to a third point, I think. How faith isn't just a private thing.
Ah, faith in public life. You see how his reforms weren't just religious in a narrow sense? They impacted the courts, the society.
Precisely. True faith, according to this story, spills out. It affects government, community justice, social well-being, the whole package.
So for us today, it's about thinking how our values, our faith, can shape our work ethic, our business practices, how we engage in our communities.
Regardless of how big or small that role seems, it all matters.
Okay, and within those instructions, you mentioned something else, something about the heart.
Yes. He tells them to serve faithfully and with a perfect heart. Now, that word perfect in Hebrew, shalem, doesn't necessarily mean flawless like we might think.
More like whole, complete.
Exactly. Wholehearted, sincere, fully committed. It's about integrity and devotion.
So it's like striving for excellence, but the motivation is different. It's driven by reverence for God, not just perfectionism.
Well put. It's about approaching whatever you do, your responsibilities, with that kind of wholehearted dedication, seeing it as service.
That's a powerful way to think about our daily tasks. Principle 4, maybe?
Yeah.
Wholehearted service and integrity.
I think so. And there's one more thing that stands out to me.
What's that?
Jehoshaphat didn't try to micromanage everything. He didn't do it all himself.
Right. He set up the judges, the higher court. He delegated. He built a system.
Yes. He builds systems of accountability. That's a principle in itself, isn't it?
Definitely. Recognizing you can't do it alone. The wisdom of seeking counsel, having checks and balances. Maybe mentorship fits in here too.
Absolutely. Building those structures in our own lives, whether formal or informal, to help us stay on track, make wise decisions.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We've got humility and correction.
Justice and integrity in how we act.
Faith impacting all of life, not just Sundays.
Wholehearted service, that dedication.
And building in accountability. Wow, that's a lot from one chapter.
It is. But it feels incredibly relevant, doesn't it? These aren't just dusty historical ideas.
Not at all. They speak right into that desire that I think many of us have for, deeper faith, more consistent obedience in our lives today.
And the implication is, if you lean into these principles, being open to feedback, acting with integrity, serving wholeheartedly, seeking accountability, you're actively cultivating a life that honors God.
It really puts the ball in our court, so to speak.
It does. So maybe a final thought for you, listening right now.
Go for it.
Which one of these principles maybe jumped out at you the most? Which one resonates with where you are right now in your journey?
And then the follow-up question is,
How can you actively, intentionally start integrating that principle more into your life this week? How can it help deepen your faith, your walk with God?
that's definitely something to chew on. Good food for thought.